Picture this. You're stepping into the private office of a billionaire. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the skyline. Minimalist desks hold only the essentials, laptops, tablets, and AI-driven dashboards glowing with data. Every inch of this space screams focus and control. But here's the question. What's really driving the success of the top 1%? Is it talent, connections, or is it something deeper?
It's deeper, max talent and connections help. But what sets the elite apart is their mindset. They think in systems, not tasks. They don't react, they strategize. And it's not magic. It's habits, frameworks, and discipline that anyone can learn.
But let's be honest, most people hear mindset and think positive thinking. Billionaires? They're not just thinking positive, they're thinking big. Elon Musk didn't aim to build a better car. He aimed to reinvent transportation. And Jeff Bezos? He didn't just want an online store. He wanted to dominate global commerce. So what's the first step toward thinking like that?
It starts with vision clarity. The top 1% don't just set goals, they define missions. And they ask better questions. Instead of how do I get rich, they ask, what problem can I solve that's so big people will pay me to fix it? That shift from chasing money to creating value, that's what scales success.
And it's not just about vision. It's about mental discipline. Take Warren Buffett. He spends 80% of his day reading. Why? Because billionaires value input before output. They build mental libraries before making decisions. And Sophia, you mentioned discipline. How do they actually train it?
They treat focus like a muscle. The elite use habits, morning routines, visualization, even AI-focused tools like Motion or Notion AI to eliminate distractions and prioritize deep work. For example, Ray Dalio schedules daily reflection time to analyze decisions. It's focus, but structured focus.
So that's the playbook: vision, discipline, and systems. But what's interesting is how they deal with failure. Most people think billionaires are fearless, but the truth is they're just prepared. Bezos says his failures at Amazon, like the Fire Phone, were necessary experiments. Sophia, what's your take? Are they naturally fearless, or do they train resilience?
It's trained resilience. They use mental models like anti-fragility, a concept from Nassim Taleb. Instead of breaking under stress, they get stronger. They turn setbacks into data and failures into feedback. That's the mindset that keeps them growing, no matter what.
And let's not ignore another tool. Billionaires use visualization. Studies show that mentally rehearsing success can boost performance by up to 30%. Athletes do it, and billionaires do too. Tools like Prime Mind and Better Up help train focus and mental imagery. Sophia, what's an example where visualization paid off?
Oprah Winfrey talks about using vision boards, literally visualizing her goals before they became reality. And Jim Carrey wrote himself a $10 million check for acting services rendered years before he made it big. They didn't just dream, they trained their focus.
That's the big takeaway. Elite focus isn't luck. It's built through intentional systems, habits, and tools. In the next segment, we'll dive into the focus frameworks billionaires use to stay productive and block distractions, no matter how chaotic life gets. We've talked about mindset, but let's get tactical. Billionaires aren't just focused. They're obsessed with protecting their time and energy. And it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. Sophia, what's the first system they use to stay productive?
The first one is time blocking. Elon Musk literally divides his day into 5-minute slots. No wasted time. Every task has a purpose. It's called zero-based scheduling. You don't start with what's on your to-do list. You start with what matters most. And AI tools like Motion automate this process, prioritizing tasks based on deadlines and importance. In fact, Motion even learns from your habits and adjusts the day to keep you efficient.
So every minute is planned to perfection. That's incredible. But what about energy? Even the most driven billionaires hit mental fatigue. How do they keep their focus sharp all day, especially when they're juggling multiple businesses and billions of dollars in decisions?
They manage energy, not just time. Jeff Bezos, for example, starts his day with high priority decisions when his mind is freshest. He saves those big calls for the morning. Tools like Rise Science track your circadian rhythms and show when you're naturally more focused. Apps like Brain FM take it even further, using AI generated music to keep the brain in a flow state. It's all about matching your tasks to your energy peaks. Bezos is also known for taking short, strategic breaks to reset, which helps him avoid burnout.
That's fascinating. So instead of just planning, they're optimizing the conditions for success. What about the rest of the day? Do they have systems for those slower periods when their energy dips?
Absolutely. The elite don't just grind through the day. They build recovery into their schedules. Take Bill Gates, he takes think weeks, literally stepping away from daily operations to reflect, read, and strategize. It's a chance to recharge mentally and get new perspectives. And AI tools like Reclaim.ai help schedule these recovery periods based on your energy patterns, ensuring you're never overworked.
So rest isn't just about stopping work. It's about being strategic with your energy. And what I find interesting is that AI doesn't just track your energy, it predicts when you'll be the most effective. I assume billionaires must also rely on some form of accountability system to stay on track. How do they avoid distractions and maintain focus?
Great question, Max. The elite don't rely on willpower alone. They build systems to stay on track. For example, Ray Dalio's Bridgewater Associates uses a system of radical transparency. Employees and leaders are constantly measuring their performance, and feedback is immediate. He also uses AI to track data across the organization, spotting inefficiencies. For individuals, tools like Habitica gamify habit building, turning focus into a reward system where completing tasks leads to rewards, not just results.
That's a great point. By tracking data in real time, they eliminate the guesswork and performance. And by using apps like Trello or Asana, teams stay aligned, keeping everything on one dashboard so nothing slips through the cracks.
Exactly. And what makes these systems even more effective is that they're personalized. Tools like Notion AI track how you work best, allowing you to fine-tune your schedule and habits until you find the perfect flow. So whether you're optimizing deep work with time blocking or managing energy cycles, the key is consistency and systems.
And this focus isn't just for billionaires, right? Anyone can use these tools and techniques to perform at a higher level, whether they're managing a startup or just trying to get more done in a day. It's all about building habits that support your end game.
Exactly. And it's not just about being busy, it's about being productive in the right areas. When you're working smarter, not harder, you're setting yourself up to outperform the competition. It's about leveraging every moment to move closer to your goals.
So whether it's time blocking, energy tracking, or accountability systems, the top 1% don't leave focus to chance. And speaking of focus, if you're enjoying this episode, make sure you subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you never miss out. And follow us on Twitter for more insights into building an elite mindset.
In the next segment, we'll talk about resilience, how billionaires bounce back from setbacks, handle pressure, and keep growing. If you've ever wondered how the elite stay calm under chaos, you won't want to miss this.
So far, we've talked about focus, discipline, and time management. But one thing that truly sets billionaires apart is their ability to handle pressure. It's not just about avoiding failure, it's about bouncing back stronger after hitting rock bottom. Let's dive into how they build resilience.
That's the key, Max. Resilience is the ability to adapt to setbacks without losing momentum. The top 1% treat failure as a learning experience, not an end. Take Elon Musk. He's had his fair share of failures, from SpaceX rockets exploding to the Tesla Model S production delays. But instead of giving up, he doubles down, rethinking the problem, and coming back with a better solution.
That's incredible. Instead of breaking under stress, they get stronger. But how do they train that mental toughness? Is it something that can be learned, or are they just born that way?
It's definitely something you can train. Billionaires like Richard Branson use physical challenges, like extreme sports, to push their limits and learn how to stay calm in chaotic situations. But it's also about mental conditioning. Tools like Headspace and Calm offer guided meditation sessions specifically for stress management. They teach you how to stay present and focus on the solution, not the problem.
So it's about building that mental muscle memory, the ability to stay calm and make decisions when the world around you is falling apart. But how do they keep their mindset sharp over the long term? I mean, we're talking about decades of success. How do they avoid burnout?
That's a great point. The top 1% are masters of recovery. They know when to push hard and when to take a step back. Jeff Bezos takes 1 day a week to completely disconnect and recharge. That's his high-performance recovery time. And he's not alone. Bill Gates does the same with his Think Weeks. These are scheduled periods where they completely unplug from work, allowing them to clear their minds and come back with a fresh perspective.
I guess it's all about pacing yourself. Even the world's most successful people know their limits and understand that rest is just as important as grind. But what about resilience in the face of huge external pressures like market crashes or global crises?
The top 1% thrive in chaos because they prepare for volatility. They have emergency plans, diversified portfolios, and teams that can pivot quickly. They use tools like Riskalyze to evaluate risk in real time and adjust accordingly. But it's not just about money. It's about having the mental resilience to stay calm and trust the systems you've built.
It sounds like they're prepared for anything, emotionally and mentally. But how do they stay grounded while all of this is happening around them?
They use mental frameworks to stay focused. One example is Stoic philosophy, a practice used by billionaires like Tim Ferriss. The Stoics teach that you can't control external events, but you can control how you react to them. They practice exercises like negative visualization, where you imagine the worst-case scenario and prepare yourself mentally for it. It's a great way to reduce anxiety and make decisions more rationally.
So it's not just about reacting, it's about responding with mental clarity and calmness. It sounds like the key takeaway here is that resilience isn't a trait you're born with. It's a skill that's developed through habits, mental models, and tools.
Exactly. And the top 1% treat resilience as a long-term investment. They know that the ability to bounce back, stay grounded, and adapt to change is what separates the top performers from the rest.
And speaking of long-term success, if you're enjoying today's episode and want to hear more about how the top 1% think, make sure to subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter for more insights into building an elite mindset.
In the next segment, we'll dive into how the elite manage risk and why they view failure as a stepping stone to success. Stay tuned.
In the last few segments, we've covered focus, discipline, and resilience. But the one thing every billionaire seems to get right is how they approach risk. They don't avoid it, they strategize it. Sophia, how do they turn risk into a system?
Great question. The first key is asymmetric risk-taking. Billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg and Richard Branson are willing to take big bets on ventures with huge upside potential, but minimal downside. Think about Facebook's early days. Zuckerberg invested millions into the platform, even when it was just a college project, knowing that the potential to change social interaction was incredible, and if it failed, it wouldn't ruin him.
So they aren't gambling. They're just choosing smart risks with a high return. But what about the risks that everyone tells you to avoid? The ones that seem too risky at first glance.
That's where the second-order thinking comes in. Instead of focusing just on the immediate outcomes, billionaires look at the second-order effects. What happens down the line? Take Jeff Bezos. He poured billions into Amazon Web Services, AWS, early on, even when it seemed like a huge risk. Everyone told him to focus on retail, but Bezos saw the long-term opportunity in cloud computing, and that paid off in a massive way.
So the secret to making big bets isn't about being reckless. It's about seeing the long-term picture. Bezos didn't focus on the risk of losing millions. He focused on the reward of potentially becoming the dominant player in a multi-billion-dollar industry. But what happens when a bet goes wrong? How do billionaires recover when something fails?
This is where mental resilience comes back in. They use failure as data, not a reason to quit. Take Elon Musk with his SpaceX launches. The first few rockets didn't make it, but Musk didn't abandon the mission. He iterated, learned from each failure, and improved the process. Instead of a setback, every failure became a stepping stone to success.
It's almost like they're prepared for failure, but not in a pessimistic way. They just expect it and use it as a feedback loop. But what about those massive risks, like launching a new product or entering a new market? How do they know when to pull the trigger?
They rely on risk models, tools like Monte Carlo simulations that run thousands of scenarios to predict potential outcomes. These models help them make data-driven decisions instead of emotional ones. Warren Buffett uses a variant perception model to find opportunities that others miss. And even AI plays a role in predicting outcomes. Tools like Google AI's TensorFlow help analyze market trends and gauge investment risks with much higher accuracy.
So they're not just guessing, they're data-driven risk takers. But even with all this technology and analysis, there's still a human element. Do you think they ever get scared?
Of course they do. But here's the thing, fear doesn't stop them. Instead of letting fear paralyze them, they turn it into action. One example is Richard Branson. He's known for taking massive risks in everything from airline companies to space travel. But he's also said that he measures risk by asking, what's the worst that can happen? If the worst is manageable, he moves forward. Fear becomes part of the process.
So the key takeaway is that risk isn't something to avoid. It's something to manage intelligently. And that's exactly what the top 1% do. They take calculated risks, prepare for failure, and know when to double down on a bet that will pay off.
Exactly. And in the next segment, we'll talk about how the elite use decision-making frameworks to manage risk and optimize success. You'll learn how billionaires use mental models to make quicker, more effective choices. Don't miss it.
And before we wrap up, if you're enjoying this episode, make sure you subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to stay updated on all things mindset and productivity, and follow us on Twitter for more insights into how the elite think, live, and work. All right, we've covered focus, resilience, and risk, but there's one more thing that sets the top 1% apart: their ability to make quick, effective decisions. Think about it. Every single billion-dollar decision is a high-stakes game. So how do the elite make life-changing choices without hesitation?
The answer lies in decision-making frameworks. Billionaires don't rely on gut instinct alone. They have mental models and systems to guide them. Take Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's right-hand man. Munger's approach is simple. If a decision doesn't fit within his circle of confidence, he won't make it. But when he's within his circle, he makes decisions quickly and with confidence.
That's a powerful way to think about it. So Munger's idea is to avoid the unknowns and double down on what you know best. But what about decisions outside the circle? What do billionaires do when they have to make choices in unknown territory?
That's where first principles thinking comes in, like what Elon Musk uses. Instead of relying on existing frameworks, Musk breaks down a problem into its most basic components and then builds it back up from scratch. This approach allows him to make decisions that others would consider too risky, like sending humans to Mars or building Tesla's first electric vehicle.
So when everyone else says something is impossible, Musk is able to see the building blocks and reverse engineer the solution. But let's talk about fast decisions. When the clock is ticking, how do the elite make sure they don't get paralyzed by options?
One technique is inversion thinking, which is used by Ray Dalio and others. The idea is to flip the question. Instead of asking, how do I succeed? Dalio asks, how do I fail? By identifying the worst-case scenario, you're better prepared to avoid it and make more confident choices in high-pressure situations.
That's brilliant. So you're not trying to make the perfect choice, you're making sure the worst outcome is something you can handle. What other frameworks do the elite use to make faster, more effective decisions?
There's also the 80-20 rule, popularized by Tim Ferriss. Ferriss says that in any given situation, 20% of your actions will lead to 80% of your results. Billionaires apply this rule ruthlessly, focusing on the most impactful actions and avoiding distractions. They don't waste time on what's not critical to their goals.
That's a game changer. If you can eliminate 80% of the noise and focus only on the vital few things, you'll make decisions a lot faster. But what happens when you face uncertainty? How do billionaires make decisions when the stakes are high and the future is unclear?
This is where probabilistic thinking comes in, which is Nassim Taleb's approach. Instead of thinking in absolutes, billionaires think in probabilities. They don't try to predict the future. They manage uncertainty by evaluating the likelihood of different outcomes. When you think in terms of probabilities, decision-making becomes less intimidating.
So, rather than trying to be perfect, billionaires use probabilities to navigate the unknown. It's about stacking the odds in their favor rather than expecting certainty. But what tools do they use to speed up decision-making without sacrificing quality?
AI tools play a huge role here. Decision support systems like Monday.com and Asana organize projects and break them down into actionable steps, allowing leaders to make quick, informed decisions without the analysis paralysis. Tools like Cerebras and Palantir analyze huge data sets to provide immediate insights, cutting down the time it takes to make major decisions.
So it's all about using data-driven systems to make decisions faster and more accurately. But there's still the human element, trusting your instincts, managing stress, and taking risks. How do the top 1% deal with the pressure of making decisions when the stakes are high?
That's where their mental resilience and experience come into play. They've built systems that help them stay calm under pressure. And remember, they've trained themselves for these moments through years of consistent decision-making, learning from their mistakes along the way.
The bottom line? Billionaires aren't just making decisions, they're mastering decision-making systems. They think through problems using frameworks, calculate the risks, and act fast. And with the right tools, anyone can implement these techniques to make better choices faster.
Exactly. And in the next segment, we'll talk about how to build your own decision-making playbook using some of the same frameworks and tools that the top 1% use. Stay tuned to learn how to make quicker, smarter decisions in your own life.
And before we wrap up, if you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and follow us on Twitter for more elite mindset tips and strategies. Well, we've covered a lot today: mindset, focus, resilience, risk-taking, and decision-making. But let's wrap up with the big picture. The elite mindset isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent and intentional. Every move they make is designed to maximize long-term growth and success. The ability to make decisions, bounce back from failures, and optimize focus is what separates the top 1% from everyone else. If there's one takeaway from today's episode, it's this: success comes from building a system that allows you to consistently make the right choices without overthinking or hesitating.
Exactly. The top 1% focus on creating systems that work for them, even when they're not looking. They don't just react to the world. They shape it through deliberate action and continuous improvement. Take Warren Buffett, for example. His systematic approach to investing has created unparalleled success for decades. But it's more than just numbers. It's about a mindset that allows him to see opportunities others overlook and to move forward with confidence, even when the market is volatile.
That's the key: having a system that can be applied in every area of life. Whether you're making billion-dollar investments, leading a company, or managing your personal growth, you need a mindset that remains adaptable and resilient in the face of uncertainty. If you're looking to build that elite mindset, it starts with small habits, big goals, and unwavering resilience in the face of adversity. But it's not just about the individual, it's also about building a team that shares your vision.
Right, Max. A key part of elite performance is understanding that success doesn't happen alone. Billionaires build strong teams, trust their partners, and surround themselves with people who are equally driven. They create environments that encourage growth, but also ensure that their teams can handle pressure and stress just like they do. That's why systems of feedback, constant learning, and support are so critical to long-term success.
And speaking of building your mindset, if you want more insights into how the top 1% think and act, make sure to subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, follow us on Twitter for regular tips and updates. We'll keep you up to date with the latest frameworks, mental models, and productivity hacks that can take your life to the next level.
Remember, the only way to level up is to challenge your own mindset, push your limits, and keep building habits that drive you toward your goals. The elite aren't afraid to fail. They learn from every setback, and that's what makes them unstoppable. We'll be back with more insights on how to live, think, and perform like the world's most successful individuals. Until next time, stay focused, stay resilient, and never stop growing.
And of course, don't forget, dream big, but plan bigger. Stay focused on the long-term goals, and remember, consistency is the key to mastering the elite mindset.
The intro and outro music, Dreaming On Instrumental by Nefex, is licensed under the YouTube Audio Library license. Full details can be found in the episode description. This episode is copyright 2025 by Finance Frontier AI. All rights reserved.
What are you doing?